Good morning. You're watching Business World Live. I'm Jes Delos Santos. It's 10:30 a.m. this Tuesday in Manila. We are about an hour or over an hour into the trading day. But first, let's go straight to our top story. Inflation slightly picked up in June as the government eased more restrictions amid the COVID-19 crisis. Consumer prices rose 2.5% last month, up from 2.1% in May. But the June reading was lower than the 2.7% in June last year. The pickup in June followed 4 consecutive months of deceleration. The Philippine Statistics Authority noted that the uptrend in the June 2020 inflation was primarily due to transport prices, which rose 2.3% from a decrease of 5.6% last year. On the other hand, food and non-alcoholic beverages rose 2.7%, while alcohol and tobacco increased to 18.9%. Restaurant and miscellaneous goods and services also saw an uptick at 2.3%. Year-to-date inflation is now at 2.5%. This remains within the Banco Central's target range of 2 to 4% this 2020. Now on to another story. The Treasury Bureau will offer retail treasury bonds for the second time this year. National Treasurer Rosalia De Leon said the government is still taking advantage of low rates to boost its marches against COVID-19. This will be the second issuance of RTBs this year and the 24th overall. ING Bank senior economist Nikki Mapa says they expect the tenor to be between 3 to 7 years. This after the Bureau also shifted its borrowing program for this week to offer 10-year treasury bonds from the initial plan to offer 7-year bonds. Auction for the RTBs will be on July 15th, but additional details such as tenor and volume will be released within the week. All right, following that uptick that we saw in June inflation figures here, let's have a check of how markets are performing at the start of Tuesday's trade. And things aren't looking so well for the index, extending those losses that we saw yesterday. The index is now down by as much as 0.3% to 6,311.61 here. Recall that we did see the PSEI declining yet again on a Monday as the country logs a record high of 2,400 cases on a Sunday. The bourse on Monday shed as much as 0.7%. I recall, according to Luis Limlingan of Regina Capital, he attributes it to a lack of any other leads here, making investors zero in on the surge of cases as well as inflation data. Recall as well that yesterday, the country, for the second day in a row, recorded over 2,000 cases. Now, adding to the worries, says Chris Mangun of AAA Southeast Equities, are reports that the virus has already mutated and is more contagious. In fact, you have some 200 scientists claiming that the virus is airborne. Now, foreign investors likewise returned to selling mode with outflows of as much as 745 million pesos. Now, today, one thing that investors will be taking a look at, of course, inflation data. Again, that came in at 2.5%. In addition to gains or increases in tricycle fares, rises in alcoholic beverages and tobacco, as well as utility and communication prices, also boosted that inflation in June. Core inflation, which excludes food and energy items, actually also saw an uptick at 3% from a year earlier, up from the 2.9% that was recorded in May. Like what we did mention earlier as well, inflation remains pretty much within the central bank's target of 2 to 4%. Jokno tells Bloomberg, that the latest baseline forecast suggests a benign inflation environment over the policy horizon, with price pressures expected to remain limited. Let's see how that inflation figure is actually performing, affecting specific stocks here. As you can see here, most of our shares here are starting the day in the red here. A number of consumer stocks, in fact, also in the red. The likes of JG Summit here, which is now down 1 3/10%. On the other hand, some stocks, some shares as well, that's also somehow linked to the consumer here. You have Ayala, now increasing 0.8%. SM investments likewise also in the green, rising by as much as 0.75% here. But what's really worth taking a look at here would have to be BDO. As you can see, the stock here has increased over close to 1% here. That's after they did mention that they are putting on the table at least $500 million in 5.5-year fixed rate dollar denominated notes. The initial price is at US Treasury plus 235 basis points. This fund comes after the 36 billion peso fundraising that they've just had via fixed rate peso bonds. Now, this new foray into the dollar debt market is part of the bank's $5 billion Euro medium term note program. Again, looking at how the stock is performing, they are up close to 1%. Now, one other mega bank here that we have to take a look at, Metro Bank. They are also offering 5.5-year dollar denominated senior unsecured notes. According to them, that's going to be part of their $2 billion medium-term notes program. The aim is to refinance existing debts. Now, Metro Bank, according to them, this is the bank's first issuance of foreign currency senior debt in recent history. Last June, let's recall that Metro Bank also raised 10.5 billion peso via peso-denominated banks. Now, looking at how Metro Bank is performing, at least the start of the trade earlier, they were in the green, but this time around they are now paring back those gains. Metro Bank edging lower here, down close to 0.7%. But also, let's take a look at RCBC. As you can see here, they are so far in the green, up 0.4%. This time, they are tapping the domestic bond market, seeking to raise as much as 3 billion pesos via 2-year bonds with fixed interest rate at 3.25% per annum. The funds, according to them, will help support asset growth, refinance maturing liabilities, and other general funding purposes. Now, the public offer, which started yesterday, will end on July 17. This is a fifth tranche of RCBC's 100 billion peso bond program. And so far, as you can see here, RCBC starting the day with some gains. And lastly, let's have a check at Meralco. The power distributor is refunding customers who have paid their bills in full in the last month, but actually want their fees paid in installment basis. According to Meralco President and CEO Ray Espinosa, customers who would opt for this option will receive installment letters to itemize their plan. Now, also, he said that during a Senate hearing yesterday, where senators grilled the power player once again for the alleged bill shop, Meralco also vowed to send clients personal clarificatory letters, assuring that they do not charge beyond what is consumed. At the same time, they are also saying that the 47 peso convenience charge will likewise be waived during the ECQ months as well as a GCQ period. However, looking at the stock here, they are in the red still here, down 0.4% to 282 pesos apiece. Now, here are other stories we're watching this morning. The Trade Department says online vendors should make sure that cigarettes and alcoholic beverages are only sold and delivered to customers of legal age. Trade Secretary Mon Lopez said the government may ban online sales of liquor, cigarettes, e-cigarettes, and similar devices if vendors are not properly registered or if they do not check their customers' age. The agency is now discussing with the Finance Department on setting up a system where online selling platforms have to register with the DTI and the BIR. This is to make sure that they are tax compliant and conduct a customer check from point of sale up to the receipt of goods. Earlier, the Finance Department estimated that the government could raise about 14 to 17 billion pesos from the 12% VAT charged on online transactions. And BSP Governor Ben Jogno warns of a bigger contraction in GDP for the second quarter as household spending remains weak. Precautionary behavior and fear of contagion are forcing people to tighten their belts and minimize spending. Jogno says this will further dent consumption, investment, and ultimately economic growth. Consumption is the main driver of the country's economy, making up 70% of the GDP. With weak household spending, the government projects the economy to shrink by up to 3.4% this year. Jokno says fiscal policy and health protocols to curb the virus spread will drive economic recovery. The BSP chief likewise reiterated the need to reopen the economy despite the continuing threat of COVID-19. And this time, BPOs are also expected to plan their transition back to office work setup depending on productivity levels. The IBPAP says some outsourcing firms may accelerate the move back to their offices in areas with poor internet infrastructure. Meanwhile, the transition could be spread out over several months for companies that remain productive even when employees work from home. Some of these companies are even shifting to long-term home-based work. As of late June, 81% of outsourcing companies were found to remain productive, with 59% of their workforce working from home. Ultimately, the IBPAP sees internet connection quality as the deciding factor for most BPOs looking to resume on-site work. The COVID-19 pandemic has fast-tracked the digital shift in various industries, and it has also highlighted the need to go contactless in various transactions. That's bound to happen for those heading up north as the North Luzon Expressway goes full RFID starting September. To talk about that, we have attorney Romulo Kimbo and Lex Senior Vice President and Division Head of Communications and Stakeholder Management. Good morning, Attorney Romulo. Great to have you here with us on the show. All right, we're having a bit of a technical difficulty here. We are going to go back to Attorney Romulo in a bit. But for now, let's proceed to some more market news here. Let's have a quick check of what's happening here in the local bourse. As we can see right now, however, we already have Attorney Romulo back here on our screens. Good morning, Attorney Romulo of NLEX. Great to have you here with us on the show, sir.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
All right, sir. Let's kick things off with your RFID system. Back in 2008, NLEX introduced the Easy Trip. Now, back in 2018, you already stopped selling Easy Trip just right after launching your RFID program or the radio frequency ID back in 2017. But as we speak, you still have around 106,000 active DSRC or dedicated short-range communication device users. Why now make the full shift to RFID?
Thanks for that question. The DSRC technology is actually 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We installed it in 2005.
Okay, 2005. Is that
and
correct?
We decided to replace them. We decided to replace them with an RFID sticker. To show an example, the device. It's what motorists use today along the NLEX and the Subic Clark Tarlac Expressway. We are going to replace it with a sticker. A sticker obviously is very easy to install, and the RFID system will now be compatible with all Metro Pacific Tollway expressways, namely the Cavite Laguna Expressway and the C5 South Link Expressway. The replacement is done for two reasons. Number one, the RFID technology is now the standard all over the world. And expressway operators in the country, including San Miguel and Ayala Corp, are already on full 100% RFID technology. So in order to integrate it, the Department of Transportation issued guidelines last May requiring all public utility vehicles, namely buses, jeeps, UV Express, etc., to move to a contactless and cashless transaction in the to avoid person-to-person contact. This will help in the anti-COVID campaign.
Mm.
Having to use a contactless integrated system helps our people in social distancing.
Since you've announced that you'll be closing down Easy Trip a few months back, how has the reception been?
There will be some inconvenience, and we have received feedback, but it's an ongoing process. So there is some pain from our 106,000 customers in the north. But we think this is short term. We are doing everything to make their experience as comfortable as possible. We are going to change the signages. We are going to issue advisories from time to time. We are going online. We are answering all their queries on the telephone and the customer service to see to it that all worries or issues about the RFID stickers will be addressed.
Mhm. And is there a noticeable higher take up as well for RFIDs? Has the demand increased?
Oh yes, we have more RFIDs today compared to the compared to the users of this device. There are more RFIDs in the market today, not only in the NLEX but also in the South. So it's a transition. There's some pain, as I said, but we think that when our customers get the feel of the RFID, especially that it's easy to install, easy to attach, the experience will change.
Mhm. Question now is how exactly can users make that shift to RFID? So how do they go about this whole process, sir?
Well, all these 106,000 subscribers are in our accounts. We have a distribution company called Easy Trip Corporation. They are being contacted individually. We have a electronic marketing system. We contact them via email, via SMS, and of course the online announcements. But since these are all direct accounts,
All right, we're having again, the case earlier, we're having a bit of a technical difficulty here trying to connect with attorney Romulo, but we'll try to get back to him later on in the show. For now, maybe we can proceed to a quick check of what's happening here in the local bourse so far. As you can see, where we stand right now, we are still down by 0.1% to 6,320. We are now somehow paring back those losses 6,322 as you can see here with trading down by as much as 0.1% here. Also, let's have a check of our leaders and laggards after we did report inflation picking up a bit for the month of June here, coming in at 2.5% here. You can see here some consumer related stocks here making some gains still. You have the likes of Ayala, which is up 1.3%. SM Investments likewise also in the green here, 0.9%. Also worth taking a look at would have to be BDO after they did announce that they are going to tap the dollar bond market here. They are up 1.3%. Also, earlier in the day, we did manage to see as well the peso showing some signs of strength here after, of course, that inflation data, signaling probably that BSP is going to at least hold up on making further cuts in interest rates here. But also, one other stock here that we have to be taking a look at would have to be Aboitiz Equity Ventures. That's after the government rejected the revised offer of the consortium in which they belong to for the expansion and upgrade of the NAIA. And now the consortium made the revision in its plans due to the pandemic, saying that it needed a review of the assumptions given the long-lasting consequences of the pandemic on airline travel and operations. Now, the consortium is saying that they can only proceed with the project if these revised plans and proposals are actually approved by the government. Now, a lot of members of that consortium, primarily you have Aboitiz Equity Ventures, there's also Alliance Global, LTG, Full Invest Development, and even JG Summit and Metro Pacific. And looking at how some of these stocks are performing, at least at the start of the trading day here, you can see Alliance Global still enjoying some gains here. They are up 0.6%. Also, there's JG Summit. However, earlier in the day, we did see the stock in the red. But as for now, let's have a quick check as well of what's happening for Aboitiz Equity Ventures. As you can see, the stock still in the red here, down 0.1%, pretty much joining that sell-off that we are seeing across the local bourse. The stock is now priced at 48 pesos and 95 centavos a piece. But one other stock that we have to take note of would have to be Metro Pacific. That is after their tollways unit. Metro Pacific Tollways Corporation paid the DPWH 4.37 billion pesos. That's part of the second tranche of the concession fees for the Cavite Laguna Expressway, or CALAX. Now, the payment was personally handed over by MPTC Chairman Manny V. Pangilinan. Last May, recall that MPTC advances tax payments of 1 billion pesos to the BIR to help the government's fundraising efforts amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Just before we proceed to our guest attorney Romulo, let's have a quick check of how Metro Pacific is doing. They are down 0.3% to 3 pesos and 69 centavos a piece. Good morning, Attorney Romulo. Great to have you here with us on the show. We're experiencing a bit of a technical difficulty earlier in the day, but let's pick up from where we left off there. For those concerned that they still have remaining balances on their Easy Trip, how do we make sure that their balance is transferable to their RFID?
Thanks again. The balance is automatically retained. All accounts are intact. All they need to do is get the RFID sticker installed, and we are expanding our installment stations. We are also selling the RFID stickers online. For those who want to have it online, the stickers are available Shopee and Lazada. And for a minimum of 500, for those who have not availed of the sticker, then that's one way. But for those existing accounts, all the balances will be retained.
Mhm. Now, let's proceed this time around to volume at the North Luzon Expressway. How's the passenger volume now in the thoroughfare when the pandemic started versus now that restrictions are slowly easing?
Yes, thank you for that. When we started the lockdown in March, the 90% of the market disappeared. We are in the mobility business, and providing this, enabling this travel. 90% of the market disappeared when we started the lockdown. We are looking at the second quarter numbers. They show us that we are not yet near the numbers we enjoyed the same time last year. We are slowly inching back to the normal numbers that we used to have. And hopefully, with the relaxing of the restrictions in some of the provinces, we may get back to our normal operation pretty soon.
At the same time, what adjustments have you had to put in place when it comes to your operations coming into the new normal?
Oh, we have had a lot of adjustments, mainly to assure the customers that they are traveling through a safe and healthy environment. All our toll plazas are disinfected every day, twice a day. All the work premises disinfected, and we observe social distancing, uh, no mask, no entry. Whenever our people are deployed in the front lines, they have to prepare themselves, wear PPEs, and at the same time see to it that in the direct contact with customers, we maintain the social distancing. You know very well the frontline services expressways include rendering first aid service for those who meet accidents, for those whose cars break down. These are all frontline services. Our people have been trained to see to it that the proper social distancing protocols are observed. So this push towards RFID system is consistent with that anti-COVID practice to avoid human-to-human contact as much as possible.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for those updates here on what's happening on NLEX. Again, levels still not back to pre-COVID levels, but of course, we are hopeful for some boosting in business, at least for NLEX in the coming months. Again, thank you very much, Attorney Romulo Kimbo, NLEX Senior Vice President and Division Head of Communication and Stakeholder Management. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
And let's have a quick check once again of what's happening in the local bourse here. We are somehow paring back those losses that we saw at the start of the trading day here. But then again, we are still in the negative territory here, down by as much as close to 0.1% here, really, at 6,323.74. That, of course, as a country logs more COVID-19 cases, recording more than 2,000 infections for 2 straight days here. At the same time, you have inflation slightly picking up to 2.5% for the month of June, rather. And that's a first look into the business day this Tuesday, July 7, 2020. Catch us again tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. I'm Jes Delos Santos. We are One News.